welcome to Glitch Please, the show where we talk about video games every week. I'm Ashley.
I'm Adam.
I'm Brian.
And this is an exciting week because, well, it's not exciting yet. It's going to be exciting tomorrow because Octopath Traveler is coming out. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker is coming out. In fact, I'm reasonably certain Gus is already taken off sick in preparation. He loves Captain Toad Treasure Tracker.
He's already played it, right? He just wants to go through it again.
But this time it'll be on the Switch.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You know, I gotta say, it's funny the number of games that came out. Like, basically, all of Wii U's first-party lineup is being re-released on Switch, and it got completely ignored on the Wii U, and now everyone is like, these games are amazing.
Where did these come from? 2013.
Right, you know Nintendo was like, seriously, screw you guys, right? Right, like we made a console and we put these games out on that console, and you were all like, "There's no good games on this console."
Yeah, it was a well-kept secret back in the day. I feel like the Wii U had good shit on it, but you know, nobody owned one except for us.
And it looked like it did look like a Hasbro toy, like one of those little tablets.
The Wii U is not a good console though. It had good games, but that tablet sucked.
Yeah, and it had what, like a 2-hour battery life?
Yeah, it was short and it was uncomfortable to play with, and it was cheap feeling, and it was not a good console.
Yeah, but it is funny to see all the games coming back, and now at least they're getting like a second chance at life, and most of them have done pretty well.
Yeah.
You know, there was a pretty good response to Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, which just came out as last month of May. It came out recently anyway, and aside from wanting to chuck my Switch out a window multiple times, because that game's kind of infuriatingly hard on occasion, or maybe I'm just terrible at it, probably a combination of both. That's really good. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
I rebought it. They did a good job, but they added just enough new things if you're a hardcore Mario Kart fan to.
That's why it's deluxe.
Yeah, exactly. Pink sparks and double item boxes. That's fine. I'll fucking buy it.
Yeah, but so we can talk through a little bit more about the demo experience for Octopath in lead up to launch. I'm sure we'll do a lot more with it tomorrow. Planning on having a copy. And keep in mind as well that we film this on Thursdays. This goes to our Rooster Teeth First members on Friday. If you're not a Rooster Teeth First member, you can get a 7-day trial at roosterteeth.com. Wink. And thanks. And then public on Saturday. So I think maybe we can do even like a gameplay stream, because I redid our setup again, like fixed all the cables, retested everything in our studio, so we can do streams and make it easier again.
Great.
Once again. So for when that's fully out. But the demo was pretty robust. It was up to 24 hours of content, if you think about it, because it's a 3-hour limit on the demo. But you can erase it and start over and start with a different character if you want, and see all of the different character intros, and then carry one of those over into the full game.
One of those saves,
Yeah. I mean, you only get the one save, which gives
it's
me
kind of
anxiety.
a bummer. I deleted one, and I was like, so there goes 2 hours, but.
Yeah, so we'll talk a little bit more about Octopath Traveler and the demo and what we're looking forward to with that game in a little bit. And we'll talk about news. There's been some crazy stuff happening. You know, Nintendo stocks are sliding like crazy. Sony bosses saying like, well, games can't really afford to fail. That's why they're all the same now. And there was a huge Guild Wars 2 firing over an argument a developer got in with the community. So lots to talk about there. Before we dive too far into it, what you playing?
Man, so I remember last week I talked about the Surge and how clunky it was and how much I didn't like it. But then I decided to give it more of a chance, and then I started to come around on it. So the thing I really like about that game is the item system. So you wear an exosuit.
And for the uninitiated, what's the Surge?
The Surge is like a sort of a sci-fi, everyone's wearing an exosuit for whatever reason. You don't really know what happened, but you're in like an industrial area, and something's gone down and everyone's angry and wants to kill you. You have an exosuit, your enemies have exosuits, and the system that I like is that you target different body parts, and if you say, oh, I like that guy's exosuit arms, you can just chop off their exosuit arms, and then you get the schematic for that, and then you can craft it. So like basically—
And all it cost was his arms.
Right, and so you go through and you like, you know, anything you see on an enemy that you like, you can pretty much have. So that I found that was really enjoyable. However, as I started to play more of it, I became less and less fond of the combat itself because man, is it clunky. I still think it's a clunky mess, but there's something to the item farming that's kind of fun. But I do feel like this game is like, it's really hard to enjoy the combat. And I might just be terrible at it, and I am in some sense not great, but it is a real challenge when like you're targeting someone and then you have to hit the specific body part to hurt them, and then like you just lose targeting for no reason or whatever. And it doesn't feel like your dodge is really on command. It's sort of like you place an order to dodge, and maybe like an hour later you get to dodge. But that's fine.
Like you submit the request, you have to go through the appropriate paperwork, and then it comes back, yes, you've been approved to dodge.
Right. It has more redeeming qualities than I initially gave it credit for, but I'm still not. I don't know if I'm sold on it. I'm definitely not sold on it for full price. If you could buy it for the $13 like I did, maybe it's worth it then. I also I've been playing a lot of, because I'm still been doing the VR workout thing, I've been playing a lot of Spark, which is that game that is kind of like Discs of Tron. I ran into the guy that was talking about bouncy ball bullshit again.
Really?
Yes, and he was saying it to someone else, and the other guy started going off. And he was like, listen, like I could play however I want. And I was like, yeah, dude, why are you fucking gatekeeping? Like, like let people enjoy the game the way they want to play. And then he just like left. He was like, no, I can't take any criticism. Out. It's so weird though. It's a small community. So that game has something called Spark Pro League. I think it's called SPL. And like, it has a community of like maybe 15 active players at a time.
Well, I mean, if you're running into the bouncy ball bullshit, dude, it's got to be pretty small.
It's a small league, but it's like a really tight-knit little group, and like there's a lot of people that play like 20, 30 hours a week, and they have tournaments for money, and I was like, this is fun. So I've just been getting on that, and it's a good little workout, and it's really fucking fun to get better at. It's a super good game. I think they stopped updating it a long time ago, but it's still fun.
Have you noticed like getting more fit while you play it?
I mean, I definitely can play for longer periods of time.
There you go.
Just cardio.
Good cardio.
I don't feel like I'm losing any weight, but I'm definitely getting more in shape.
I remember hearing that cardio is like your cardio system is one of the fastest to improve when you work out.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, because I was going for like an hour at first, and now I'm on like hour 3, and I'm like, I should stop just because I have other things to do, not because I have to.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, if I remember seeing like the Couch to 5K planning, like their route of workouts was, it starts you off basically being like, oh, you can barely walk, you sweet thing.
Right.
And then
just lift your arms up.
Right. Like just give it a go.
Yeah.
So it goes from like really, really basic, and then in a couple of weeks you're like, here, run a 5K or a 10K. They've got Couch to 10K as well, and the growth is pretty impressive.
Yeah, that happened to me in like 2010. I decided to start like riding my bike to work, and the first day I thought I was gonna have a heart attack, and then by like a few months later I was like riding in the rain, like I was totally into it.
Were you shouting at drivers?
Oh, yeah, like being like way too aggressive on a fucking bike, like cutting cars off. Like it was, I'm kind of glad.
Being like, right away.
I'm glad I got out of shape again and stuff.
I used to ride my bike to work when I lived in New Jersey, and it was great. And then I got hit by a motorcycle. And I was like, oh, this is the worst. I'm never riding my bike on a public road. It's so scary now.
You forget that you're on a bike, and you think you just belong in traffic, and the other cars are like, no, you don't.
I was in the bicycle lane, and some guy just like blew by at like 100 miles an hour, and he hit my arm with his mirror, but it felt like someone took a baseball bat.
Yeah. Well, at 100 miles an hour, it doesn't take a lot to feel the pain.
Yeah, he stopped like a quarter mile down, and I like rode over to him, like, dude. He's like, sorry, I was going like 100, I didn't see you. I'm like, that makes it better. Thanks, man.
Wow.
It does make it a little better, though. Like, at least he stopped. Well, I don't know, my elbow.
Well, it stopped, at least it wasn't malicious.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Still ruined my bike riding experience forever.
You quit after that?
I can't ride bikes on public roads. I'm too scared. Yeah. It's scary, dude.
Well, because bikers will tell you got to take up a lane. You got to act like you're a car, and that sounds great unless you do it, and it's terrifying.
No.
As a driver, I'm only terrified because I'll see a cyclist, and I'm like, are you being a car right now, or are you being a pedestrian? And when is that going to change? Like, when are you just going to decide that you're going by the different set of rules?
Yeah, when do you want to?
I don't know what to do with you.
Right. Also, when are you going to decide to jump up on the sidewalk because there's a traffic jam and just sort of zip through everything? And like,
Right. You know, it's so.
It's bullshit. I totally did it too, though. It's great.
So, video games.
Yes. Sorry.
But yeah, I think I love that you're doing the fitness stuff as well. I've finally got my lazy ass back on the treadmill with Persona.
Playing Persona?
And yeah, I had that initial resistance of just like, I don't want to walk, but I do want to play. I need to get back into that Persona. And eventually it was the Persona that got me into it, not the fitness. Although, you know, I really should be better about, you know, taking care of myself. But I finally got back into it. It's great.
Yeah.
Have to rebuild all my foot calluses. That's right. Foot calluses.
Oh, so you're going barefoot?
No. But I have some twisty toes. So one of my toes kind of turns to the side, and so it'll.
Bend it back.
Yeah. just snap that one off. We don't really need it. But it means that if I'm walking for, you know, in this case, 90 to 120 minutes a session, so like per day, my little feet are delicate, and it takes a while for them to build up because that one will just like rub, and so I'll get a really bad blister on the bottom of it until it sorts itself out. So
Right.
I'm going through that process again. Great
Maybe
fun.
tape it up or something.
I haven't tried taping it.
Yeah, a little medical tape around your toes so they don't rub.
I don't know. I got those really cool socks that are 2 layers. So they're 2 layers. So the one layer will stay with your foot, and one layer will stay with the shoe.
Sounds like you slide around.
No, they're amazing. They're amazing because it means my feet aren't rubbing on the shoes. They're insulated. They're great. Highly recommend. I'm going to show you my socks, and you're going to be like, "Hot damn, those are some scientific
Are they
workout
really
socks."
hot? It sounds like they're hot.
No, not bad.
Because
Not bad.
a lot of heat travels through your feet.
Potentially, but I also like, you know, I'm sweating the whole time anyway.
Yeah, I just picture it's like you're in risky business the
Right.
entire time. Just whoosh.
That sounds delightful.
It does. Yeah.
But I've been playing that again. I'm this close to finishing Kingdom Hearts.
Nice.
So close. And I could go take on the final boss, but I'm trying to go back and do a bunch of the extra trophies.
Beat Sephiroth.
Yeah, I'm like gonna go like beat Sephiroth, so I've got to do a bunch of level grinding, and I'm like, oh well, I'd really like to get the Ultima weapon, so I need to do all the fucking synthesis, and I forgot how much I hate synthesis because it's that steps, you know. You're like, I want to beat Sephiroth, I want, you know, with this weapon, I'm gonna need to be probably in the like 80 levels anyway, so I'm gonna do synthesis. But to do synthesis, I've got to now go back and I've got to farm all these enemies that weren't spawning on these worlds before to get these different stones that I can then use in the synthesis. And so there's just this, I'm now basically replaying every single world to farm this one item from this one enemy.
Are you trying to platinum it?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
You're just.
No, I'm doing some trophy hunting, but platinum on that game is,
insane.
May I say, bullshit.
Yeah.
Because it takes minimum 2 playthroughs, but there are trophies for 1, beating the game without using a continue. So I think you can load a previous save. That's fine, I think. But if
That would suck to find out afterwards.
Oh God.
but so you have to beat the game without using a continue, which means that say you fail with a boss or something, you're gonna have to go all the way back to whatever save point they saw fit to grant you and go through it again. As opposed to usually with continue, it will at least start you back in that scene. So just more replaying. There is 1 for beating the game in under 15 hours. Just for the record, I'm at like 50 something right now.
Yeah.
There's 1 for beating the game on proud difficulty.
Right.
So that's on hard.
Yep.
So basically what it means is you need to do 1 super hard playthrough.
Yeah.
Where you go and you do it on Pred, whatever, and then do all your completion-y stuff on that playthrough, and then do a super easy, crank the difficulty all the way down and run through it, and that's how you could get maybe some of the other ones. But overall, sounds like a pain in the ass. So right now, I'm not on. Also, fuck gummy ship missions. So right now, I'm not on a path to platinum.
You're gonna get to the final boss, and he's just gonna be like, you know what? Fuck it. you win. We don't have to do this. Here you go. You guys just come on through.
I was like, well,
is that an ultimate weapon? Okay, fuck it. You're fine. Yeah, I got nothing against that.
it's another one of those things where the hidden, secret, optional bosses are harder than the
Way
final boss.
harder.
You're like, well,
yeah.
I'm glad that guy didn't decide to destroy the world this time.
Right.
Because he would have been able to do it.
No, it's like Final Fantasy VII. I'm glad Ruby and Emerald Weapon are just sort of bored out in the desert or under the water because they could have wrecked anyone.
Right, but instead they just decided to chill for you.
Yeah, and salute to them for that. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's
But
nice.
Really, yeah.
There was a trophy on one of the Mega Man games, I think, that in order to platinum it, you had to do a whole run without getting hit. Like without getting
Fuck
touched.
that
It's like,
noise.
yeah, fuck all that.
No.
Yeah, there's in Dark Souls 2 they had it wasn't I don't know if they were tied to achievements, but they were definitely tied to items. That one of them was don't sit at a bonfire, which means you don't get checkpoints.
Right?
And the other one was don't die.
Great.
Yeah, they were super fucking hard,
Yeah.
dude. Never got those.
Right, no.
That game's very hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are some games where I look at the trophy list and immediately go, this is not happening.
No. There's
Had I realized how much I was gonna have to do exactly for the Final Fantasy X trophy, I'm not sure I would have done it.
But you did it anyway.
I did. Because then I was like, well, I'm committed now.
Yeah.
Like now we're into it. I guess, may as well.
Is that your-
190 hours, whatever.
Is that your proudest platinum?
It's definitely my longest
Yeah,
platinum,
yeah.
so yes. But having a lot of fun with that and my Luminous.
Oh yeah.
Still on
Always
Luminous, huh?
Luminous, yeah.
Yeah, it's just so nice before bed. I don't really need to say anything else, man. I'm just still playing it.
It's a good game.
Yeah.
All right. What about you, man?
I'm playing West of Loathing on the Switch while I wait for Octopath to come out. West of Loathing, it's an indie game. It's a Western.
Stick figures?
Yes, the stick figure one's kind of a comedy Western. It's a lot of meta humor, a lot of jokes. It's okay. I'm enjoying it. It's a fine, I feel like 8-hour game.
It's a game.
Yeah, it's a video game.
Yeah.
I'm playing Ni no Kuni 2. I finally started that.
What do you think about that?
I like it. The fact that the lead character Evan, he still looks like my daughter looks exactly like him. If you put ears and a cape on her, she would look exactly. And she walked
Halloween costume.
Yeah, I was like, she could cosplay the shit out of that character.
Nice.
So him being a boy is still an adjustment for me, but it's a lot of fun. And I like that the president character, the other dude who comes in, Roland, I like that he can just pull out a gun and start shooting.
It's so ridiculous.
But he brought a pistol with him from the past.
He's a gat.
He brought his Glock with him. So that's a lot of fun. I also, a friend of mine got me into Destiny 2 again. So
Really?
Wow,
On
okay.
PC or PS4?
PS4, yeah. Shout out to Dorito Girl. She's a hardcore Destiny player, and she just wanted. We sometimes play together, but we've been playing Iron Banner stuff and Crucible, and it's fun. I like Destiny Crucible for some reason. I'm
Really?
not like an FPS guy at all, but it seems something about Destiny. Even if you're not good, it seems like you can contribute in Crucible stuff and still get a few kills.
I've been thinking about hopping back into Destiny 2, but on PC because I played on PS4.
Yeah.
Waiting for PC to come out, and then I was like, I'll definitely play on PC.
Yeah.
Pre-ordered it. Why did I pre-order a game? You should never do that.
Right.
Never played it.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about maybe hopping into it on PC and waiting for the Forsaken stuff to come out. But how is have you done any of the new content?
Nope, not a bit.
Okay.
No, I played through the original story, the one with Dominus Gall, played through that. I liked it. It was fun.
I think the story was cohesive. I know people have a lot of complaints about it, but
Yeah.
it was fine. It was a shooter campaign,
Exactly. That's exactly how I felt. The story was
Take you to new and exciting places and
Yeah.
kill the people there.
Yeah, I mean, it was
exactly.
this shouldn't be a measure of how good it was, but compared to the first Destiny, holy shit, it was like a rock star. It was the best.
Yeah.
But
People have been really hard on it, and I'm not really sure why, but I don't play it in a hardcore, rating way at all. But
I think
I've enjoyed
people are upset at Destiny because it's a lesser game than its predecessor, and it's like trying to get back to where its predecessor already was.
Yes.
That people
Yeah,
are-
like it backslid.
Yeah.
That there's a lot of repetition, that they felt like there just wasn't
Right.
a lot
Yeah,
of
the exotics
new
didn't
stuff,
feel as
not
good.
enough to keep people playing like every week, like the rewards system for staying in it just wasn't
It
there.
has good shooting.
Yeah, that's what something about the gunplay, and I'm not smart enough to know why that is, but it just feels good.
Yeah, I think it's the headshots going
Yes,
and smoking.
yes,
Yeah.
that is it.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll play some Destiny.
Although for what it's worth, the chatter from the Destiny community is that everyone is looking forward to the new content that they're working on that's coming out this fall.
Yes, yes.
And that people want to get back into
Yeah.
Destiny. It's just that, it's a little bit like a Sea of Thieves situation, not on that level, but where you're like, I like the game. I like the
think
idea
it's
of
worse
the game.
than that situation. Not in terms of the content, but in terms of how people's loyalty has been tested.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because they already went through this. Like the original Destiny was like, Bungie is making a game. And it released, and it was like, this is maybe not very good.
Yeah.
And then they
Well,
went
it was
through,
more like, this game is okay. We were
Yeah.
hoping for something to blow everyone's
yeah,
mind.
and then they went through 2 patches or 2 DLC, your expansion pass of stuff that was like, this is tacked on, crappy. And then it finally got to Taken King, and everyone was like, oh my God, thank you for making Destiny good again.
was a blast.
Here is something
Yes.
worth playing. And then we're doing the same exact thing again, and I think that's why, like, in a sense, it's worse. Like, yes, Sea of Thieves is a kind of barren game, but
Although they're working on that.
right, but that's their first go. And Destiny was kind of a barren game, but we're doing it a second time.
It's like it should have known better at this point.
And like I personally feel frustrated because I felt the same way. Like after a little while, and don't get me wrong, I got at least $60 worth of enjoyment out of that game.
Yes.
But I paid for the expansion pass because I expected expansions to be good, and they're kind of middling, and
Right.
I'm excited for Forsaken, but at the same time, it's like, oh, I get to pay another $40.
Yeah.
Again, like this game has cost me so much money, and I'm still just waiting for it to be what Taken King was.
Yeah, Destiny feels like an underachieving high school student. Like, because it feels like, I think fans get frustrated because it seems like it has so much potential. You know what I mean? Like, there's a great system, but it's just not living up to expectations. You know what I mean? It feels like when I would bring home like a D in algebra, and my parents would be like, we know you're capable of more, that's why we're mad. And it's like, yeah, but I don't want to. That's what Destiny feels like. It's just, we know it could be more, but for whatever reason, it just doesn't do it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
It's just smoking weed with its friends.
Well, we'll see if they've been studying up.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see how it does on the final.
Right. Like maybe this next exam is going to get them there.
To kill that allegory, yeah.
Yeah. So it's awesome you're getting back into that though.
It's fun. There's something about just multiplayer that, with the headset on and it just takes you back to like being 16 years old again. And like, I'm not as good, I'm slow, all that. But again, like, you can still get yours in Destiny, it feels like.
Are you talking to strangers or just
teammates, just the squad mate. I do not talk to strangers.
Gotcha.
No.
I played Spark. I already talked about this, but
Yeah.
I was playing and I put my headset on just to talk to people, and
Yeah.
I was amazed because I talked to nice people, and like I met this one dude and we played like 5 or 6 games together, had a nice conversation. He never called me one slur. It was incredible.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
Maybe a niche game like that too is going to
think-
have like a more mature fan base.
I think it's that, and it's also the fact that Vive is like, any VR, there's a cost of entry there
Yes.
that
Oh,
most kids
yeah.
wouldn't have. Anytime I play kids or against kids in VR, it's like you hear their older brother like, all right, just you hold the controller like this, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna fucking stomp on you. No remorse.
Then you make them hang their head.
Yeah,
Do you
just,
have that video yet?
It went like this. It went out of my memory. It was
Back in the day, it was kind of something similar. I was playing World of Warcraft, and we were leveling, but there was this high-level character, like power leveling. It's just taking us to all the, upper-level areas. We were getting a shit ton of EXP, and then finally I asked, like, who is this guy? Like, why is he helping us? And one of my party goes, that's my dad. So it's still the sweetest story.
That's great.
Yeah.
I
man.
love that.
Oh, dude, I could nostalgia so many things about playing old games.
Yeah.
All right, I'll refrain.
All right, well, we're not going to be playing probably any of the games that we're currently playing starting tomorrow.
Clear the decks.
Right, because Octopath Traveler is going to hit the Switch. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I played.
All right, hold on.
Sorry.
Oh, let's talk about it.
Transition.
Can we change this shot to tilt shift?
Ooh.
That'd be really cool.
Let's get some 2D HD up in this. I love this game's style.
Yes.
And
It's the most striking thing about it.
it is, although I have to say, sometimes it feels a little bit overly blurry.
Like the backgrounds and stuff?
No, the backgrounds I'm totally okay with being blurry. Sometimes I feel like the focal point where the characters are is still a little bit blurred.
That's interesting.
Like the edges aren't
like a little
100%
washed out
clear.
almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that has to do with the lighting.
Okay.
Because I think in certain areas, like the light's hitting your character, the lighting looks great, but sometimes you're right, it hits your character, and it's like a little, like there's like a depth of field thing playing on there, and it comes out a little weird.
All right. So there have been 2 demos now for Octopath Traveler. The first one, when they announced the game, it was this Project Octopath Traveler demo. The game was announced in a direct, and it was like, oh, and there's a demo now. Also, we'll totally change the name. And then they did by dropping Project, and now it's just Octopath Traveler. So then at E3 this year, they put out a second demo. This is the prologue demo, where it's a really cool concept in that you can get up to 24 hours of gameplay out of the demo. I'm sure you can get more, but the idea being that you can
get more.
Yeah, that you can have you can basically take a 3-hour chunk of gameplay over into the full game.
Right.
And if you want to, you play the 3 hours. Say you start off as, I was doing the hunter character.
Yeah.
And say I get through the 3 hours as the hunter character and I've gone through everything. And it's like, well, you're done. I'm like, all right, well, start over. And now I'm going to be the cleric. And so you can theoretically, if you want to stretch it out, get 3 hours out of each of the 8 characters, which, doing the math, 24 hours.
Wow.
Right?
How many hours total have you played?
Maybe 6.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I played about 5.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure I didn't overplay it because they do sort of keep you to just the beginning sections.
Yes.
And if I overplay it too much, then I was worried that I would get the mistaken impression that it's really grindy.
Yeah.
Because I'm just going through essentially like the same low-level creatures and
Over and
doing
over
like your first weapon upgrade and getting your first, buying your first armor 8 times would be a little bit much.
So you said you did the cleric and the hunter?
I ended up doing the hunter and the scholar.
Oh, the scholar, sorry.
Yeah. So I was tempted as well. I wanted to do one that's a little bit more traditional in that I'm like, oh, look, the bow and arrow lady, and she's got a pet. This is my thing.
Yeah.
And that's led me down to make some poor decisions in past games. When I was playing Divinity 2, I was like, I'm gonna get the one that's got my pet bear, and it turned out that maybe that was one of the weakest classes that I could have taken.
She has the coolest mechanic, though.
No, not Divinity. Sorry, Pillars of Eternity 2.
Yeah. I'm talking about the Huntress in this game has a really cool mechanic.
Oh, she's great.
Where like you're walking around the world and you'll encounter random enemies, and most of those are creatures, and there is a catch mechanic where you can capture that creature and then.
And it works a little bit Pokemon style. Like it seems like you need to
the
do
more
damage, you need to
the higher percentage.
you need to break it, and then you have a capture percent.
And then later on, you can then utilize those in any other battle, and they have like 5 usages. And once you use them, once you use them 5 times or whatever, if they're dead or something.
I learned that the hard way. So the Huntress, I'm terrible with her name because all of the characters in her area are.
She has a weird name.
She has a weird name. It's like Hannick.
Yeah.
And she's a character that I actually found her speech patterns annoying.
Oh,
she's
so
like very
annoying.
like these and thous and like very faux.
Every
world.
fight she goes, "Letteth the fight beginneth." It's like this is
I'm
not
like, stop.
how you. This is not
Just
even how you would
stop.
talk at any point.
It's weird to hear these characters voice acted, you know, because they're throwbacks and the graphic style is throwbacks, but then you hear, you know, someone, "Oi, mate, I'm a pirate." What? No, you shouldn't. Just don't talk. Let
You
me
know
just
what?
read.
Overall, though, I do like the VO. Although
I like it. It's just jarring at first.
Yeah, the first time I would expect VO, I'd expect it to be like the like little digital
Yeah.
like throwbacks
That kind of
or like
pigeon-
8-bit.
yeah.
But it's not.
Yeah, I like having something.
Yeah.
Except her speech. There.
Right. Speech
get rid of that.
annoying. As a character, great. But I learned about the limited uses on the summons the hard way. Because I went into it not knowing how everything worked out, just I'll go through and play. And I seen the uses go down, and I was like, how do I reset them? Do I have to like rest it in whatever? Because I know my hit points and my mana will reset when I level up, and that's all really great. But I'm not sure what it is I need to do to like reset my the monster to max uses, because one of the ones that comes with the character by default is a healing monster.
Yeah.
And so I'd
moss
get in a
thing.
fight and I would, it's like a moss meep or something.
Yeah.
And so I'd get in a fight and I'd get a little low on health, and I was like, well, I don't want to use an item, so someone will just do it in, heal it up, and then I got, right before the boss fight, each of the characters has like a boss fight to close out its opening area.
Gotta go.
And so I was fighting it, healed, and it was like, they've returned to the wild. And I was like, wait, they've done what? Why?
Gotta go
Oh,
capture
God.
another one. You can capture multiples of the same thing too.
Yeah, but that's how I found out that we don't reset them. You use them, you capture them with the idea that you only have them for this many turns or this many uses, and then they're gone.
Right.
And that's it.
They went to go live in a farm out in the country.
Yeah, that's exactly.
You just see a vet's office where they're being taken to and put down.
So, the interesting.
Why are you so dark, Brian?
Sorry.
The interesting thing about this game, from what I'm understanding, is that there is no main story. There are just every character has their own storyline that you will follow and complete. But
Yeah.
there's no world story. It's not like the world ending as a whole.
Okay.
Like you're just going down these 8 paths, and I think that's super interesting.
Yeah.
Right, like so the hunter is trying to find her master,
Right.
who went on a hunt and didn't come back.
Right.
And she's like, he's in trouble. I'm gonna go find him.
Right.
And the scholar Cyrus he's looking for an old book. And they've each got their own thing. There's like some revenge stories.
Yeah, like I played Ophelia, the healer character, and she's going off to like gather these sacred flames, but it should have been her sister. She and her sister sort of live in a church basically, and their dad is the archbishop, and it was sort of her sister's mission to go and gather these flames, but then the dad like has a heart attack or something, and so the sister stays back to care for him, so you as Ophelia go off and gather these flames.
Is the sister also a cleric? I have to ask, because if not, it seems like you'd leave the cleric, the healer with the ailing father.
Yeah. That is weird.
Maybe
no.
she needs to go get something to heal the father.
Yeah, the sister, it seems like was supposed to be like a priestess / cleric, but she never was really into it. She always wanted to do something else, so she's kind of relieved that she doesn't have to go and gather all this stuff. But you do think a healer would be better at home with dad to maybe, lower his cholesterol count or something.
So I'm curious about this game. I really like it, but in the demo, like you were saying, there's a little bit of grindiness. There's the main thing you're doing is walking around and fighting enemies.
Yes.
And in the demo, there's not like a wide variety of combat abilities, except if you bounce between characters.
Right.
So I'm hoping that the main game has, I'm thinking it will have more to do, or more variety in the combat.
Right. So the 8 different warriors. So I did hunter, scholar. You did cleric.
Yep.
I started with Huntress, then I did 2 hours of that, and I cleared my save because I wanted to start with someone else. And I started with Ulbrich, who is the warrior, and then I went and picked up the Huntress. Because I was like, I want her in my party. Very cool.
Yeah, so the 8 different characters you can have are there's Ulbrich the warrior, and they've each got a couple of different things. They've each got a path action and a talent as well. So the warrior can challenge townspeople to duels.
Oh, the Y button thing.
Yeah, the scholar can sort of like interrogate them, ask them questions, and gain insights. Not interrogate. He's not like an inquisitor.
He can just be annoying.
So
but yeah, he'll just ask questions and then come away and be like, aha, yes, a little bit Sherlock Holmesy.
Right.
In a way.
Actually, I think what you're referring to.
Some of those abilities are like a little vexing, because like the Huntress is just like, yeah, I'm gonna fucking fight any of you, and she can. That's her ability, fight anyone. She's like, any townsperson you want to kill him, you're on.
Yeah, it's a provoke. Or something. Like
I don't know what you gain by doing that, but they start you off and they're like, okay, you need to provoke these dudes. They're friendly, but just like piss them off.
Her superpower is frontin'.
It's real weird, but yeah, I'm curious to see how those are going to be used, because they're all unique, but not all of them seem useful. Some of them, like with the cleric, you can take someone as an ally and bring them out to the fight. So like, you can talk to anyone in town, be like, hey, you're cool, come on, let's go hang out. I think with...
Is that the cleric or is that the dancer?
I think that's
the dancer...
So hold on,
I know the dancer allures people.
The cleric, I thought her ability, or when I use it, was like solving people's minor ass problems.
No, you're
that
right.
They should do themselves.
So Ophelia's path action is to guide, so she can basically pick up a line of ducklings who will follow her along, and then she can summon townspeople to aid in battle.
Right.
So that's her thing.
So she's a cult leader.
Yeah. And then Primrose, the dancer, her path action is to allure, so she can similarly get people following her and then summon them as well, which makes them very distinct characters.
That's the question. Like, some of these are like very similar, some of them don't make any sense. Like, what is the path actions are the things that's supposed to separate all these characters. I guess we'll probably find out as we play if or if not they're gonna be like interesting. But
they tip the dancer.
Right. I'm just gonna use the hunter and provoke everyone I don't like.
She's just a monster.
Fuck you.
She's just going around heavily armed, challenging people.
Now, one of the things that I really liked about Fantasy Life on 3DS, did you ever play that?
No, I own it.
No, you told me a lot about it.
Yeah,
that is a franchise I would love to see come to Switch. I will fund you level 5. I've got like
What's your
I've got like, I don't know, I can pay a $60 full retail price. But it's one of the cool things about it is that you could take on sort of these non-traditional roles for RPGs. You know, it could be like a cook or a tailor. And it is cool in this. You can also be, there's a character who's a merchant. And her power is like she can purchase stuff from anyone. So like basically you get additional options to like pick up new equipment or whatever that you wouldn't have otherwise.
Some guy is just like, he's like a street dweller, but he doesn't have anything besides his prized locket from his dead wife, and is like, I don't want to sell this to you, but I have to now. Fuck. Horrible ability.
But then she also has the ability to collect money left behind from fallen adventurers and merchants and stuff, so she can help increase your coffers. Yeah, she's a grave robber, actually. You know, if you think about it, though, that is how you would go about collecting a lot of resources.
Look, she didn't get that shop by being nice. Yeah, she had to get some capital.
You know, and then there's the cleric, there's the dancer, there's an apothecary, and that's so similar to the scholar. The ability is to learn all sorts of information from people, presumably to be different sorts of information.
Feels like they're getting a little lazy with some of these.
But then it can also create potions and basically mix ingredients.
Okay. Yeah.
So
there's a thief, a little bit of crafting, and then
Is the thief's ability to steal from everyone?
Gotta be.
Right.
Yeah, or some sort of
steal
backstab.
the belongings of townspeople. Yes.
That's great. I'm gonna do that.
That's fun.
Yeah.
And
pick
also,
locks.
open locked treasure chests, which I haven't actually encountered any locked
I've encountered a lot,
Yeah.
or a couple, and I'm like, oh, I guess I'll find a key in this area, and I scour the whole area and nothing.
No, you need Therian on your team.
So, yeah, I'm gonna get him.
But it is cool that even in the demo, you can pick people up, add them to your party. And one of the things I like about this is when you meet one of the other people, you'll be like, oh, well, do you want to see like where their journey has taken them so far? And it will go through their origin.
I did that, yes. I ran into
cool.
somebody. Yeah. She was like a pirate or something, and like her, I forget now, her family something had happened. She got like some shit stolen from her, and we were trying to get it back for her.
Her name wasn't Primrose, was it?
She's a
dancer, I think.
dancer.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to remember someone's is a revenge story. Yeah, Primrose is a revenge story.
Maybe that's who it was.
But just because I'm trying to think who would have, like, because if you can see the origin story, that means they were one of the 8 characters.
Yeah, no, it went back to the sort of sepia-toned origin story, and yeah, there was something involving pirates, and it kind of seemed revengey. So yeah, it might have been her.
But overall, I'm excited about this.
I'm super excited.
It is a little bit nostalgia bait in that it looks like all the classic JRPGs.
Good.
And you hear the developers say things like, I think of this as a spiritual successor to Final Fantasy VI. And I'm like, or like, you know, to the
Put it right
Final
into my
Fantasy,
veins.
or like the Final Fantasy VI like philosophy of like how the game played and everything. But you're right, I'm a little bit concerned it could be grindy, which is one of the reasons I didn't want to overplay the demo.
Yeah. Did you like, how much of the map did you explore in that demo?
The northern area.
Okay, so like, Ulbrich is like in the southeast, and then the Huntress is in the northwest. So I basically had to go in a circle around the map, and the map doesn't feel that big. Like, it shows you a whole map, but then as I traveled through those spaces, I got to her in like 20 minutes. But like, it wasn't, and that's 20 minutes of like fighting through areas and stuff like that. So it didn't. I'm a little worried that maybe the game's scope isn't that large, but maybe there's more, like, I know there's more to it than I'm seeing, but like, just in terms of scale of me moving on a map, I moved across basically half the map.
Well, I think there's also some sort of like dungeony areas, like level areas. Like, so take the Huntress, for example. Sorry, Hunter. She, like, her area is, like that whole woodsy area is actually just like one little point on the map. If you look at it, it's just the one little dot of the trees. And you move around a little bit in it, but it's a different scale, clearly. And so I went around the northern part. I went west over to east, and I ended up going into one of the little dungeon areas that was like, you should be level 17. And I was like, I'm out.
Yep.
Because I'm like level 6.
Yeah.
And so there are definitely higher level areas, and I think there's a lot of those sort of dungeony bits around. Some of them may have been removed from the demo, or just I didn't discover all of them because I was trying to get from one town to another town.
There's definitely areas I went to that were like, you can't go here in the demo.
Or maybe they do the Final Fantasy move where at some point it opens up and you realize like, oh, I've just been hanging out in like
these
of
are
the
just the
world.
origin areas
Yeah,
or whatever.
and here's the giant ass overworld.
I'm excited to see what kind of environments you get to, because even in the demo, there's a good amount.
So a few reviews have been dropping this morning from Kotaku and Polygon, and I've been kind of sifting through them to kind of figure out a little bit more about what the main game is going to contain. It looks like it's going to have 8 standalone stories, each with 8 different characters, like you guys have gotten to play in the demo. Each of those stories is 4 chapters long, making for a total of 32 chapters. It seems like there's like level gates to each of those chapters. So as you play through, your party has to be a certain level to access those chapters, which is going to require a little bit of a grind for some of the later levels, because anyone back at the tavern doesn't gain any levels or experience as you play through. I think they said there's a total of about 50 dungeons total, like overall for the whole story. And there's some confusion over whether Octopath Traveler's 8 stories overlap or like lead to some sort of epilogue. And Nintendo came out and said that there is some kind of in-game content, but they haven't told anybody how to access it, or like if it's a matter of, they just said it's a matter of completing some storylines and some side quests. But as of the reviewers having finished the game and all 8 of the characters, they haven't found out how to access that. So.
Interesting. Yeah, so, okay, some of that makes sense. Also, did you find the game got really easy once you added additional party members?
I found initially when I first left the town and started battling things, I was like, geez, this is a grind. Like, I'm not doing anything. And I was playing a healer, but like nothing was working. I hadn't equipped any of my gear.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, it's the 100th one of these games I've played. Yes, when you add party member, yes, it gets a lot.
That makes sense though, because this is, each one of those areas that you're going to in that demo are meant to be played, or to be able to be played solo. So I don't think those areas are scaling per se, because as soon as you add someone, it's like, oh, it's a joke, but each one of those you could be doing solo because you could start anywhere.
But even solo, I found that, so I went through Hannet's area, I fought her boss, I died, so I reloaded because there's a save point right before it, and then I just like went off, explored some of the nooks and crannies of the forest, got some new chests, got some different equipment, went back to town, like bought a proper chest plate with all the money that I'd earned, and basically equipped up, and then went back, fought the boss, and was like, oh, this was not that hard.
Yeah.
But I'd gained a couple levels through doing that, and then after that, every fight I had, like nothing was hard. Nothing got me even close to dying.
Totally, but this is the prologue.
I
This
know.
is like, this is like tutorial. you
That's
know?
true. That's true. But it made me worry a little bit, and then I added a second character in the party and was like, well, I mean, nothing is even
Now
like
we're
getting
rolling.
hits on.
Yeah, well, I think part of that is like I noticed that too. Where the first time I played with Hanit, I was like I was struggling, and then the second time I was like, oh, you start with enough money to buy like a new bow and a piece of armor. I'm just gonna do that, and as soon as I did that, like everything was a joke.
Yeah.
So I think it's just like getting you accustomed to like, hey, you need to buy some gear and you need to get some friends.
You need to
and-
remember to equip it, Brian.
It's so stupid.
I think it's just the intro areas
Yeah.
are going to be easy.
So
But
I
I
haven't
think there's some
played
challenge.
the updated demo since it's come out. Is there a job system in the new updated demo? Like you can add jobs to each of the characters? Because apparently that's a part of the full game.
So there is, I haven't encountered a job system specifically, but skill unlocks, yes. Each time you defeat a monster, you get some experience, and that'll lead to level ups. You get some money, and then you also get maybe that's what JP stands for, as job points, where that's how you can unlock additional skills. So I unlocked like a lightning attack for Hanit, and could then use that. But maybe it leads into something else, because once you've unlocked a certain number of those skills, then it will unlock different support skills.
According to Jason Schreier's review on Kotaku, there's a light job system that allows you to equip each character with one of 12 jobs, 8 based on the main characters, and 4 optional super jobs that are guarded by uber tough bosses.
Okay, I have not
It sounds
encountered that.
awesome. I
Haven't
love
encountered
anything
that. That sounds
you say
great.
uber tough bosses. I'm fucking in.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, like if you're leaving Therion back in like the tavern, you can stick the thief job on like Ulbrich, or you can give the apothecary Alphen into like more of a healing position if you give him Ophelia's cleric job, and you can kind of mix and match for more of an in-game like situation if you want to go up against tougher bosses.
Man, I just want to let's stop this podcast and go to sleep for the day and go play a game.
Right, gotta sleep, gotta get up. Like midnight game comes out. Although with Nintendo, sometimes it seems like it can be different
hate that.
times.
I hate that.
And I'm not
Yeah,
sure
I
like
hate
exactly
it.
when it's coming.
Yes.
So
Is there a midnight
maybe
release
don't.
at GameSpot? GameStop?
I don't know.
Let's all do that. Let's make a video. Let's go do a midnight release.
Old
that?
school.
Greatly looking forward to this game. I think it's going to devour my life
Yep.
Yeah,
for a
it's gonna
while,
be- yeah.
anyway. So
Until the 31st when Chasm comes out. I'm freaking excited about Chasm. Been waiting for a long time for that game.
and I'm sure we'll have lots of thoughts from Gus next week about Captain Toad as well.
Oh yeah, I'm going to be playing this one though. So not
Yeah,
Captain
I'm
Toad.
gonna try and I want to try and spend some time on both of them. It's tough, man. These games coming out the same day. What's up with that?
No.
But that is all for tomorrow. There has been some stuff going on in the game industry as well that's definitely worth talking about. So should we cover news?
Let's do it.
All right, so as mentioned at the beginning of the show, a couple of different things that have been happening this week. One that was a big one is that Nintendo, even though we're talking about, Nintendo Switch has 2 games coming out tomorrow, that their stocks have been dropping pretty heavily. They've been dropping since the March-ish timeframe, but that drop kind of accelerated post E3. And it goes through like every stock goes through like ups and downs, but it's lost since March like 34%, which is a pretty significant amount.
Yeah.
That's because their presentation didn't have anything like exciting and new. Like it had like a couple third-party games like that Daemon Ex Machina or whatever.
Yep.
But from their first-party lineup, there's like nothing.
Well, let's compare the first party lineup for the year to last year's. So last year they launched with Breath of the Wild. And their next big one was October, and that was Super Mario Odyssey.
Well, no, they had
But then in between that,
Yeah,
they had Splatoon 2 and ARMS
and Mario Kart
and Mario Kart 8
Mario
Deluxe.
plus Rabbids, which wasn't them, but it was.
Right.
It's
still a Mario
exclusive.
title.
Still exclusive.
And it's on their system. Like
So they had basically like two big ones, like two of their biggest franchises, and then I'd say 3 supports. Mario plus Rabbids is a Mario title, but is third party as well.
But it's
So
exclusive. But I know it's not Nintendo, but it is Mario. But I felt like every month of that first like 8 or so months, I had something big to play on my Switch. Like I was putting it down after a few weeks after I had played like Zelda or Mario Kart, but then like the next month I was like, all right, here we go, ready to play this game. And I don't feel like I have that to look forward to now.
See, I disagree to some degree. I don't think this is as strong a year. I think the first half of the year has been pretty empty. But we did have, they did do Donkey Kong.
Right.
They have 2 this month.
Donkey Kong, I think, was in some cases, not a misfire, but the fact that they priced it $10 more than the Wii U version and it's a remaster is like a little bit gougy for me. I didn't pick it up because it's $60. Like I want to play it, but I'd probably play it at like 40 or 50 bucks.
Yeah.
Nintendo keeps their prices on games high for a very long time.
Forever. But
Yeah.
but like if you're launching the same game, make it the same price. Make it $50. Come on.
But that did come out, so they had a title supporting at least something earlier in the year. Although the first couple months were. And then now we've got Octopath Captain Toad. Again, Captain Toad also was a Wii U game, so I'd put that in the support category as opposed to a major category, also because it's Captain Toad, not, Mario, exactly. But then they're going to be doing, there is going to be new Mario plus Rabbids DLC, so that's out. So if you were looking forward to, is that out?
Yeah.
That is out, yes, it is out. Sorry, my brain lost where it is in time for a second. But so if you were looking at Mario plus Rabbids as one of the supports for last year, the new content would be that for this year. Not exactly a new release, but still something to do on it.
It's something.
And then they go into 2 of their biggest franchises, both in the holiday period, Pokemon and Smash Brothers.
Smash I'm excited for. Pokemon I want to be excited for, but I don't know that I am.
No, look, Pokemon is going to be one of those polarizing games. If you want a core Pokemon, it's not for you, but they're making it for the Pokemon Go players.
Totally.
And I'll probably play it just because
It's Pokemon.
it's
Of
Pokemon,
course
and I want to see
will play
what
it.
is, what is up
Plus,
with
I'm
that.
gonna get one of those Pokeballs, and that'll be my forever icon.
That is sweet.
But it does seem like this year for Nintendo is weighted much more heavily towards the holiday period.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's as strong this year. But also that's also a result of last year being so
Yeah, they pulled out all the stops. Dude.
right.
Zelda and Mario.
Two all-time, and they were all-time great games. I mean, Breath of the Wild, I put over 100 hours into, and it did feel like what Adam said. It's like they released enough ports in between to keep me interested until something big like then Splatoon, Mario Kart, Mario Odyssey, all-time great game, so much fun. This year it's felt a little more bare. They've gotten some indies. Hollow Knight came out. I thought that was a smart port for them.
It's done really well.
Yeah, Octopath Traveler I think is going to be, it'll be interesting to see how well that does. I want it to do well. It'll be awesome, but I don't really care about Smash. I know it's a huge franchise, and Pokemon, I love Pokemon. I'll probably play it, but I'm not like super stoked about it.
Smash is a great game, but it's not something for me that I can pour tons of hours into.
Exactly, yes.
Super Mario Party, that's another support they've got coming this year.
That's
Something I would like to play with friends.
Yes.
It's not like something I was play alone.
It's a party game, yeah. The other thing that analysts have said, we quoted Michael Pachter in a story for The Know. Basically, the reason it's dropping, or what he thinks, is because they don't think they're going to meet their hardware sales. They said
They're
they're going to
35 million or whatever.
Yeah, well, they've already sold, I think, 17 the first year, and they said they're going to do another 20 million in the current fiscal year that we're in. And investors don't feel like Pokemon and Smash are enough to move 20 million. And everything goes off hardware, because if they don't have, if they don't make the hardware sales, they obviously don't make the software sales, and so it all trickles down. So I think that's what you're seeing now. If everyone buys Pokemon and buys a Switch because of it, it'll shoot right back up.
What's interesting is that Nintendo came out and said, like, you haven't seen our whole 2018 lineup.
Yeah, that was interesting to me, but
And I want to know, like, why hold back? If you're in a position where, like, listen, say what you will, but that E3 presentation was pretty weak. Like, they spent a good 20 minutes talking about Smash.
30 plus.
Right, and it was like not very much on other games, and I think people expected
too much.
other stuff. And the fact that they spent that much time on Smash really tells me like they were filling gaps that they didn't have stuff to put there. And maybe it's too early to announce those other games, but if it's part of their 2018 lineup, at least give some people some like glints of hope.
We're halfway through July.
Right.
Like we don't have a lot of 2018 left.
Right. I suspect that when they say we haven't seen the lineup, they're not talking about AAAs.
I agree.
They're going to be talking about indie stuff. They recently said they want to put 20 to 30 indie games per week on the Switch.
Crazy.
In which case, they need to do a lot of work on curation because it's going to be impossible to find anything unless you go into the store and specifically search out the names because discoverability is not going to be that high.
It's not good.
And up to this point, indie devs have said that their games are selling great on the Switch, but I don't know if that's going to continue if they're doing 20, 30. Think about it, that's 80 to 120 new indie games on the platform per month.
There's already some garbage to sift through on that system.
Yes. They also sold well because it was a brand new platform with millions of players and not many games to play. That's a sweet spot for that's like early days of iPhone when garbage apps were selling, and I think as it matures, I hope it continues to do well, but I think it's getting saturated very, very quickly.
Yeah, maybe too many indie developers hearing the good stats about it.
There's a gold rush.
Everyone rushing, and then it gets hard to find the gold. So we'll see, but I worry that that's what they mean when they say we haven't seen the lineup. I know Devolver said they've got a bunch of games coming for the Switch, like 12?
Or they've got
18 games, something like that for this year for the Switch. And that's all great. It's good to have those games on there, but I don't know that those are going to move systems at the scale that Nintendo needs them to move.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, all we can do is wait.
Yeah.
There's more Nintendo Directs though, so that's kind of somewhat hopeful.
But I don't think they're sitting on Animal Crossing. To just
as much
roll
as I
out.
want that,
That's not.
I don't think that's
think so.
what is happening.
I would love to be wrong, but I think, or maybe they're sitting on a port that they're working on.
Wind Waker HD.
Wind Waker
second
or
port.
something. Yeah.
Maybe suddenly backwards compatibility, or they get the equivalent of the Virtual Console, so that there's a whole bunch of backwards library. They are launching the online service in September, and that's gonna at least not have a Virtual Console, but it's gonna contain some of their retro games.
You get your
maybe
old NES games.
Yeah. But hey, look, you have the giggle about it, but look how well NES Classic sold.
Yeah, that's right.
It sold like crazy and is selling really well again now that they've got it back in production.
I think they're sitting on maybe something like a like another Doom port or a Wolfenstein, maybe that they just haven't announced, but I don't know. Maybe GTA 5's coming.
It's a Red Dead Redemption on the Switch.
Exactly, yeah.
Turns out it's an exclusive.
They put LA Noire on it. You never know.
True. So we'll see. But then we also have had Shuhei Yoshida, the head of Sony Worldwide Studios, talking about the state of AAA games. And it sounds, to some degree, a little bit dire as well, just from an industry standpoint, in that specifically, he was saying that the reason so many AAA games seem so samey, like they're all following a formula, is because they cost so much to develop because they've got these huge teams on them now, and they spend so much marketing on them so that they sell units, that the expectations are so high they can't risk failures, and that failures are catastrophic. I mean, if you look at Mass Effect Andromeda, which is an example that it's easy to come back to because it was a very visible example last year, it tanked the studio. They shut it down. And studios typically aren't super liquid. If a game completely bombs, not a lot of studios can stay open through that. Look at Boss Key was an example this year. They were trying so hard to make Lawbreakers happen. It wasn't really happening. They were panicking, trying to figure like, what can we do? Put out their extreme early access game, and it wasn't enough to keep the studio afloat, and they just had to shut it down.
I think you're seeing this in Hollywood too, though, right? I mean, the big blockbusters. I mean, blockbuster movies have tanked studios just because the production costs and everything, you know, computer-wise has gotten so much more complicated that, you know, you put 200, 300, 400 million into something, and games aren't that far behind in terms of production costs of like big AAA games. Yeah, you're fucked if it doesn't sell well. I mean, and I think this has been going on a while. I mean, remember Tabula Rasa, that MMO from Richard Garriott, that totally fucked NCSoft, and they just say like there's no room in the middle anymore. It's either big stuff or indies, and a lot of the mid-size, the studios with like 50 to 70 people who were designing, you know, a $25 million games, they're gone. They just don't exist anymore.
There are some. Look at The Surge. That's
true.
a very B game.
I think they're there, but not like
Totally.
it was. Yeah.
I kind of miss that era of just
Yeah.
like, this is a weird game.
Right.
But it's all right.
Yeah.
Right, like it's more than an indie title. This isn't like a one-man, four-man project.
Right.
This is a 50-man project.
Yeah. Exactly.
So it's not the 900-man project that you get with some of the AAA stuff these days, but you know, it's fine. It's good. It's goodish, and it's right there in the middle. And you're right, we did see that in Hollywood. Now there's the movies that do
There's Marvel
billions,
movies,
and then there are a ton of
Yeah.
indies, but there's not as much
Yeah.
right in the middle as there used to be.
Yeah, I think there's just a pressure to either get big or you'll just get swallowed up, I guess. But yeah, I miss that mid-range. I'm trying to think of a movie example, but yeah, just something that's like gonna find an audience and like a decent-sized audience, but it's not gonna be, you know, this massive thing. But I mean, there are people who've said that this is not a sustainable course for the industry, that it's too much going into too few games, and then yeah, if it bombs, and even a big studio like Rockstar, I mean, they're doing great, but if Red Dead 2 flops and, you know, they have another one, like, they could be screwed just like everybody else.
Well, thankfully,
Well-
Red Dead 2 probably not going to flop.
It's not good. No, it's not. That's a bad example.
I think we need two of their games to be bad,
Yeah,
and then maybe
yeah.
the third one would not sell well.
Right. Maybe you're right, yeah.
But they have such a good track record. That,
They do. So did BioWare once upon a time.
Yep. Well, yeah.
I mean-
BioWare was full of jank. Or I guess Rockstar, whatever.
Well, keep in mind that Casey Hudson, who's heading up BioWare now, says that they're going back to their studio roots.
Yep.
So we'll see what that ends up
Yeah.
meaning. And a lot of the founding talent from BioWare has moved on.
Yep.
So I'm not sure entirely what that means. Maybe philosophy, we'll see. But
I think it means please buy Anthem.
yes, which,
Please.
I think Anthem, from what I hear, it plays really well. Like, it's fun to play.
It looks cool.
So,
yeah.
and it has exosuits. So,
Absolutely,
So
yes.
I think that.
yeah, but can you cut off other people's
it's gonna
arms
do
and take
okay.
their exosuits?
I think it's rated T for teens, so maybe not.
So we'll see what BioWare ends up doing.
Yeah.
But I can kind of see as well, like the whole AAA thing. What are the big games that we talked about this year? God of War was a darling.
Yes.
That was first party, huge studio.
Awesome.
We talked
Magic
about
when
There really isn't that many AAA games this year so far.
last year. The big games we talked that really captured people's imaginations. Most of them were pretty big. There was Horizon Zero Dawn, which, getting the graphics to that level, that took a sizable team and investment.
Yep.
Persona
There
5.
was Breath of the Wild, which is huge. Persona, I agree. I was definitely talking
It
about
felt
it.
AAA.
All about
I mean,
it. But I think they work on with a smaller team. I
reasonable.
think they do a lot with what they've got. But I think it's a smaller team, and they also rely on things like the dancing games and the fighting games, where they're able to reuse a lot of assets to, I think, help pad out their revenue.
Totally.
But there were some exceptions. There was Hellblade, which was maybe one of those indie to double A's, depending on how you look at it or how you want to categorize it.
Yeah.
That did really, really well. I'd say punched above its weight, batted above its weight, batted above its average, punched above its weight. And
Nier Automata felt
Nier
like one of
as
those.
well.
I don't know the budget, but it didn't feel quite as big, but like great story,
Great
cool
gameplay.
gameplay. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not a sure thing by any stretch of the imagination. And so it's people either do the big thing where you're working with a couple hundred
Yes.
others, and that gets real expensive really quick.
And they're fucking awesome when they work. Like God of War was amazing. I love those games. I think it is a little bit scary how much the budgets seem to have ballooned, but hopefully hopefully it'll keep going, because I mean I think it's great, and you know Sony pours a ton of money into Uncharted and a lot of its first party stuff. Spider-Man looks awesome. I can't wait to play that. I mean we've got some good stuff coming.
Mind you, I wonder sometimes how much Sony is doing that because third parties don't feel that they can afford to do so.
Yep.
So Sony is definitely filling a gap that third parties are leaving by not creating those kinds of games. All the third parties are going games as a service. If we're doing
Here's our battle royale
games, they're big and they're gonna live for years and years and years, and we'll keep putting new things in, but we need people to keep playing these games for years in order to make them viable.
Yeah, Amy Hennig said, God bless Sony for still making these kind of games. Like, she specifically singled them out as one of the few who are still making them. So if one of their executives is scared, like, that's a little bit unsettling.
I don't know about scared so much, but it was an observation that this is the direction everything seems to be going in, and this is why so many of the third-party publishers are focusing on, you know, like loot boxes or microtransactions or games as a service in general to figure out how they can squeeze the most out of these games that they're putting out. So it is an interesting trend to see, and to also see Sony observing it.
Yeah.
So we'll see what ends up happening. I definitely don't want to see single-player games go away. I don't think they will.
I think so
that you know, there was a developer recently, and I forget who it was, saying that like every time someone says that single-player games are dying, they're wrong every single time. And it's true, but I wonder if they'll become more like first-party things where they don't need to be incredibly profitable if they can fill the gap in the software and drive hardware sales.
Yeah, they're like subsidized things as almost showpieces for the console to move them.
Yeah.
Which is, I think that's how Uncharted started, it seems like.
So we'll, fingers crossed, though. I would like to see a resurgence of AA games.
Yeah.
That would be
Maybe
a lot
we'll
of fun.
see, since there's so many indie developers now that are like trying to make a splash, maybe we'll see some of those guys band together, and then we'll get our little B tier AA games that are like
that would be cool.
Slightly above average.
I know that's a pretty reasonable path too. Like, let's say you are an indie developer and you've had a success, so you've now got some liquidity, and maybe you put together a team to do something more ambitious that you didn't feel you were able to do yourself, and then they grow up from there.
Yeah, I think
Fingers
stuff
crossed.
like The Witness is a good example. Like, like Jonathan Blow made Braid, and that did really well. And I guess he also had a team do it. I think he had a team. Maybe he did it himself. But then now, The Witness was like a small studio.
It was awesome.
And they made a really big game, really good. So
Yeah, so there's definitely still room to grow. The other big thing that happened this week, and this is going to be quite a discussion, I suspect, is there has been a major firing at ArenaNet. A Guild Wars 2 writer, two Guild Wars 2 writers were very publicly fired from the company after an online altercation with fans. And so there's a lot of complexity to this. It's so far pretty, like, people are polarizing to one of two directions, but there's actually a lot of shades of gray in here that are worth discussing. So bear with us. It's something that I'm worried to talk about because it brings gender into it, and that's its own whole can of worms for anyone and everyone. But here is essentially what happened. The top line is that one of the Guild Wars 2 writers, Jessica Price, she put out a tweet, as a series of tweets discussing the complexity of creating compelling characters in an MMO environment, because you don't have access to the same types of tools that you would in a narrative game, where you just make choices for characters, and this makes them a compelling protagonist. MMOs are different because each player feels this sense of ownership over their character and has their own idea of what this character should be and what should make them compelling, and so you can't insert too much into their character, but you also don't want to leave them just like as a piece of like blank white bread that goes through the world without having any sort of impact or dynamics.
Yeah.
Sort of. So there's a different complexity to that, and so she put out a thread just discussing how it's complex, and a YouTuber who is very big into Guild Wars, very popular with the Guild Wars 2 community. In fact, I believe is also an NPC in the game.
Royer, yeah.
I'm not great on the pronunciation. Apologize if I got it wrong.
Wow.
I've only seen it written out. He responded and was like, I can see that. I disagree. I wonder if branching narratives would or not just branching narratives, but like if you can choose your dialogue options, if that would do something like that.
Do we have like the actual tweet? Because I'm pretty sure I think the verbiage and the wording is important, because I don't think it was like actually inflammatory. I think it was very. I think it was level-headed in a way.
This is where I do have this. So
and this
I'm
is
pull
very
it up.
important.
It's just. Sorry, it takes me a little bit to get to it because there's a whole lot of
there's a-
tweets.
So there's a little bit of it here. There's a three-part tweet, but it says, interesting thread to read. However, let me disagree slightly. I don't believe the issue lies in the MMORPG genre itself, as your wording seems to suggest. I believe the issue lies in the constraints of the living story's narrative design. So he's whoever this person is, he or she, I don't know, is approaching it from he's trying to just give his point of view, and he's not doing it in an inflammatory way. When you want the outcome to be the same across the board for all players' experiences, then yes, by design, you are extremely limited by how you can construct the personality of the player character. But instead, if players were given the option to meaningfully express their character through branching dialogue options, which aren't just on the checklist for an achievement that forces you through all dialogue options, then perhaps the players would be more invested in the role-playing aspect of that particular MMORPG. Nonetheless, I appreciate the insightful thread. So he's basically saying, I disagree, and here's why. And he's not saying you're fucking wrong and you're an idiot for thinking this way, my way is the right way. I think he's just giving an opinion. And he or she might be implying that I know what I'm talking about more than someone else or whatever, but I don't think they're intentionally being like a dick. I think they're just trying to say something.
Sure.
And that's important.
And there's tons of screenshots going around about the different dialogues, because what ended up happening is she retweeted him, she quote tweeted him, and was like, here's welcome to being a women in game development, getting mansplained to. People who don't know your job telling you how to do your job.
Well,
But before that,
yeah.
I think there was an escalation that happened directly between the two of them that is not as widely seen.
Sure.
She did respond directly to him, basically being like, thanks for trying to tell me what we do internally, my dude. And, which seems like a little exasperated, but his response was also an escalation, so I don't think he's innocent of the escalation.
Sure.
So he had that thread. She responded, thanks for trying to tell me what we do internally, my dude. And he said, you getting mad at my obvious attempt at creating dialogue and discussion with you instead of just replying that I'm wrong or otherwise correct me in my false assumptions is just disheartening for me. You do you, though. I'm sorry if it offended. I'll leave you to it. But I think that's him reading anger.
Sure.
But I don't know about you. I don't read that tweet as angry, just sort of like exasperated. Which I get the feeling I
think her response was just a little. It's dismissive. It's like, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. It's basically what that's saying.
Yes.
And
it is, but it doesn't sound.
It's not.
Angry,
it's not mean.
So
it's just
I don't think he's innocent of the escalation here.
No, I don't think so either. But I think that her response is basically saying, you don't know what you're talking about. And I think his is maybe playing a little victim-y of saying like, you're you're treating me disrespectfully or whatever. But it's like, whatever. But then she does kick the hornet's nest.
She does kick the hornet's nest. You know, she retweets it and does make it very clearly about that she feels that he would not be responding to her this way if she were a male game developer.
Which is like...
And I can't speak entirely to that either way. The problem with gender specific stuff is that I only have my own experience. You only have your own experience, and I don't know if this guy would have responded to a male developer differently. If he would have disagreed with him, maybe he would have responded to any developer the same way.
Which is why I don't think it's fair to turn it into a gender issue per se. Mm-hmm. I think it's perfectly valid for her to say like, hey, I've been doing this job for 10 years or however long, and you are just you're a person who plays my games, and you telling me how to do my job, maybe you should realize that you don't come from the same like level of knowledge as I do, and like maybe I have a little more insight to these problems, and maybe your solutions aren't exactly sound. And but then turning it into like, you're saying this because I'm a woman, it's not a fair card to pull out in that situation. At least that's the way I feel.
No, I would definitely agree that I think that she's not the only developer who...
I think she's being dev-splained is what's happening.
I do agree with that. I think there's a lot of armchair developers in the world.
Yeah.
We were all like, how hard can this be really? Or, you know, and that happens to anyone about anything is, you know, any of us will get responses like, oh, I don't see how hard, you know, I'm sure... Why don't you just do this? And it's not necessarily a gender thing. Dev-splain is a great way to put it.
Yeah, and the thing that this is really interesting because what happens is she then says, aside from the gender thing, it's like let me explain, like allow me to explain how to do your job. I think what made people mad was the developer or the gender thing, not necessarily the you're telling me how to do my job thing. But then she goes on to bring up the top tweet is, since we got a lot of hurt man feels today, she's like even further leaning into that gender role thing, which is, I don't know, if that's a smart thing to do. And maybe it's just an impassioned thing that she's doing. But like her general response without the gender is just like, I hate when people are telling me how to do my job. This is really annoying. Don't fucking do this. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because as people who are front facing for the internet, like we've had these experiences where like, we'll have people come in, think they understand a scenario better than us, and then tell us why we're stupid or why we didn't do something wrong. And there are times when I'm sure plenty of us have responded in ways that like are pretty similar to this, sans the whole gender issue thing. It's like, hey, listen, maybe you don't know what the whole situation is and you just have a small picture. Like that just happened. And it's like, I don't think ArenaNet's response to this situation was the best.
I think there's more to their response.
Yeah.
I have a theory on it, which I'll get into. But as far as the escalation goes, I agree that she didn't handle it the best. After the initial thing, like after basically the first time that she said, you know, made an implication that it was all about gender, then all of the responses from the community did become gendered. Well,
right.
not all of them. Not all of them. That's an overgeneralization. But they started to get more gendered.
Yeah, and
you know, and then it sort of went from being about being dev-splained to being just like this polar, like, oh, playing the woman card and so on and so forth.
Right.
And then it devolves from being a potentially productive conversation into just a war as to whether that was okay and whether this this female developer attacked this male member of the community over a misunderstanding.
Right.
And
like, are you implying that everything a man says to you that you disagree with is mansplaining? Like, that's what the conversation, that's what that sparked.
Right.
And that's really dangerous.
Right.
And like, oh man, like I sympathize with how she's feeling of someone is explaining me how to do my job, but like the way that was handled is not the best.
It's also though like, we can't walk a mile in her shoes either. Like,
totally.
You know, her like career as a developer, and maybe it's been a decade of, getting like I don't know, shitty gendered comments from, fans and stuff. Not saying this was, but like maybe she had just hit a point where she's like,
maybe that's the straw.
fuck you. Yeah.
Right.
and then
like
that's-
maybe it
and
wasn't
I don't-
even about this specific
Exactly.
interaction
And I don't
so
know-
much as it had been about a build-up
Right.
that we didn't see.
I don't
Right.
know that, but maybe, and also this is why I hate how internet back and forths can get so heated so quickly. Whereas I feel like if this was a real life conversation, it would be probably a lot more polite, a lot more understanding, and it wouldn't have amounted to anything. And it sucks that it just sucks by the nature of internet back and forths that
Yeah.
just things just
Yeah,
go
this-
from 0 to 100.
Yeah, and then this was a bad example or a good example of like how a mob mentality can shape
Absolutely.
a response to a situation.
Right.
Because while I disagree with her bringing gender into it, I can see her points, and I feel like I've even probably been on the internet and been like, "Hey, don't be a jerk to me," even though I don't think that this guy was necessarily being a jerk.
Right.
Like I've definitely responded publicly in ways that like.
Right.
Like
Popped off to somebody.
Maybe I don't need to even go there, but I've just been in that situation like, dude, I'm having a rough day, just fucking go away.
Right.
And but then this turned into like this whole mob of people. Oh my god. Oh my
What's
god.
up, Joel?
He BMXs.
When did we get BMXs?
Dude, he's been BMXing for like 20 fucking years.
I hurt my groin today.
On
You
your BMX?
smell a little bit, but I kind of want to hug you.
They are hugging. I can't see that on camera.
Sorry.
Well, Adam's hugging.
I love love.
I love Joel. I don't even know where we were.
We were talking about the.
Oh, right.
That we've all probably been.
Yeah.
I
But-
know.
but then-
I've snapped at people.
Yeah,
I've
it's-
had bad times where it wasn't about that one. It's
Just a
drop
culmination.
in the bucket, and sometimes it's just like that. It shouldn't be. Like this one shouldn't have done anything, but I was over it because I had heard something similar a billion times.
Totally.
Like, and I do this occasionally I get frustrated, just in, like within the like we have overall like a really great community, and like lots of like great commenters and people who follow and who understand and know who everyone is and what everyone does. And then every now and again you'll see a comment like, does this chick even play video games, or
Right.
did they just hire a pair of tits to read a prompter?
Right.
And I'm like, I know that this person doesn't. They're not a subscriber. They don't watch the show.
Right.
If they did,
Right.
they would know better.
Right.
But they don't. And so there's just these little
And it-
frustrations
Yeah.
that you write off, but they add up, and then eventually something can
Yes.
just.
Yeah.
You're having maybe a bad day already, and someone's just like sets you off, and you're like, look.
Right.
I've had it.
That might be years of shit built up.
And but what this led to was like this mob of people saying she's sexist. She's trying to make an example of someone that doesn't deserve to be made an example of. She's bringing gender into what should have been a polite discourse. And I'm just saying what this argument had become.
Yeah.
And then ArenaNet was like immediately was like, you're out of here. And then she had a coworker that was defending her, and ArenaNet was like, you're out of here.
Yeah, it again, like escalating it even further. Like now people are getting fired over like a
tweet.
Twitter back and
Yeah,
forth.
and also, but the you're right. I don't think we know the whole. Like we could possibly not know everything. Maybe this was the last straw. Maybe she just snapped at people before, and we don't know about it.
Right.
Like maybe it was like, hey, don't do this again, or you're fired, and you got fired.
Well, she has had at least one incident previously, specifically on social media, and it was recent. It was after Total Biscuit passed away. She was, let me see if I can find this here. Background, yes. When Total Biscuit passed away, she did post a tweet that said, "The kindest thing I can say is I'm glad he's no longer around to keep doing harm."
Dude, that is
Which, honestly, if I may, seems like a more offensive tweet
that's
than
celebrating
saying
someone's
that
death.
you've been mansplained to.
Yeah, celebrating someone's death is like real not cool.
Can't speak ill of the dead. It's not a
You know,
thing.
and that's recent. So I can see potentially as well the community already having a chip on their shoulder about
Sure.
her
Like
based on that.
hair trigger, like ready to jump on anything. Yeah.
Right, and so because that same thing goes both ways, right? Like it can be maybe that had built up.
I will
as
say
well.
I think many of us here have tweeted at people and like fired back on internet comments. But I think if any one of us were to get on the internet and celebrate someone's death, we probably wouldn't keep our jobs or would be on very thin ice.
Yeah.
And so that's a pretty reasonable assumption that that's maybe where she was.
Right. So, but based on how recent that was and how quickly the firing announcement came out after this whole escalation and community response, makes me think that it may have been potentially a strike, like a strike 3, or
Sure.
maybe they have a strike 2 policy, and that was the first one. And they were like, "Look, we're done.
Yeah.
We're done."
What do you think about her coworker that got fired though?
That one is kind of a mystery to some degree. So
Some of the
basically,
players don't even get that. Like I was on the subreddit the day after of Guild Wars 2, and they were like, "We didn't." Even some were like, "Yeah, we're fine with her going, but we didn't want him to lose his job."
Maybe
Yeah,
maybe
so-
this was something that like everyone net thought this was such an inflammatory situation. that they
Or-
wanted to,
My-
like,
my-
another theory. So here's what
quarantine.
his defense of her was saying that basically she never asked for Jorah's feedback. Like hey dude, she didn't ask you for your expertise, and that was about the level of contribution. But then
Like, are you gonna lose your-
ArenaNet did announce that
You're
he
gonna
was
lose
fired
your
as
job
well.
over that? Like that's just I don't know. I also I do stand up. I come from a stand up background too. And like if somebody fucks with you live, like at a show, like you get heckled, you go full on to that person and like shut them down verbally, like however you can, because you have to take back control from
There's
that.
there's a line to not cross.
Exactly.
Michael
You don't
Richards.
cross that line. But if you did that on Twitter, this is what happens.
Right.
And it's like you have to be very different on Twitter as opposed to like a live show. But I still, have that sort of stand-up mentality to a heckler. Like, nope. I'm gonna top you right now, like as meanly and as viciously as I can.
You saying
to
that
get
gives
you to
me
shut
so
up.
much anxiety, dude. Like the idea of like trying to do something that's already scary, and then someone's like, "Hey, you suck at that thing."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Okay, you're right.
Yeah.
My bad. I'll leave."
It's one of those things where it's like you just sort of have to do it. It sucks, yeah, because you don't want to, because that's not part of the show. But
Yeah.
it's like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
But I think that my other thing, getting back to Guild Wars, is that game can't have a very large community. Like
I think you're wrong.
maybe
I think
I'm
it's a
wrong.
successful game.
Successful, yes, but it's also
Comparatively,
it's a little
I
bit
guess.
older. The people who are playing it now is probably a more insular community, in that the people that are playing it have probably are more likely to have been playing it for a very
That's
long
my-
time.
Sure.
And MMOs have
they're
hardcore.
lifers, right?
Yeah, like MMOs have hardcore communities. I was a hardcore, I played Final Fantasy XI. I was very familiar with all the goings on. We felt not listened to by the dev when various things would happen and the game was getting fucked up, and we didn't feel like Square Enix was listening to us, and and there was a lot of online shaking our fists. But just because you have so much more invested in an MMO than a regular game, you have maybe years of your life, like you said. So I don't like brigading, and I think this was an overreaction, but there is a lot of passion in MMO communities.
Totally. I think I don't by any means think that guy should have got fired for his you shouldn't have responded comment, but I kind of think that if you're posting in a public forum, expect responses.
Yeah.
Not everyone can agree with you.
I agree, and it's also you get that weird balance between being like, this isn't an official account, I can say whatever I want here, which but also you
That's
are,
a little
but you're also tweeting about your work, which then kind of makes you a
Twitter-
representative of your company while you're doing so, and chances are a significant portion of people following you are doing so because of your work and because of what you do, because that's a total package of who you are, right? None of us are entirely separate from the work that we do.
Personal Twitter aside, if you're being really inflammatory on your personal Twitter, you're still a representative of of a company that you work for. Like if you're being publicly like offensive, then that can have repercussions in the rest of your life. Just because you say my views don't represent the company, that's fine. Maybe your company doesn't want your views to be in the company.
If you want a private Twitter, get a fucking journal.
Right.
Like it's not going to be.
Or protect your tweets so that it is no longer a public forum. Because if they are public facing and anyone can see them and interact with them, then it does become a place where you are making sort of a public statement, or you're publicly posting your thoughts on a big wall where anyone walking by can see those thoughts, and some people will feel like they want to respond to that because it is out there and it has been made available to them. But the guy, his firing is so weird. I wonder almost if it was like one of those like, hey, if you're gonna fire her, you like gotta fire me too, and they're like, okay.
That was a dumb move.
Or like what exactly that looks like, because that definitely seems like there's more internally happening that we don't see.
Right.
And I think it's important to keep in mind is we don't and never will have a complete picture of every interaction and every implication that came into the decision. To some degree, we're all flying a little bit blind. And honestly, so are sort of the people involved.
Yeah.
I think that's the trouble too, right?
Yeah.
Is no one has a complete picture of what anyone else is experiencing.
Right.
So it's a whole big mess, but at the moment, Jessica Price has been fired, and a lot of game developers and people within the industry have come out on her side saying that they feel it was wrong that she was fired, that it's going to empower toxicity within gaming communities, empower, encourage future brigading. There was one example that was pointed to. This was posted in the subreddit after the firing. Is someone posted, we can probably fire anyone on the Guild Wars 2 dev team as long as we make a big enough stink. Nobody at ArenaNet is safe from the hand of Reddit. We're literally running the company now. They're in fear of the very users they seek to consort with.
That is the most neckbeard comment I've ever heard.
And if the devs, we haven't finished it yet. And if the devs stop communicating, we'll just go at their PR person and cut them down. We actually play the game more than they'll ever be able to. So as a community, we probably know how to do their jobs better. We just don't have the mechanical skill they do. The moment a dev steps out of line or tries to talk back to a player, guess what? They'll know we got their hands on their throat and we can squeeze anytime we like. Nice. Talk shit, stop smiling, do a bad job, lose your job. That's how it works at my dad's restaurant. A job isn't a right, it's an offer, and it can be rescinded at the drop of a hat.
Oh my God, he said that all wearing a Guy Fawkes mask. Jesus.
So this, I want to be very, very clear. This quote is not representative of the entire community.
Yes.
But it is the kind of thing that people feel comfortable publicly posting in this aftermath. They do feel almost empowered by it, and so that's a concern that a lot of developers have. Is now people think that brigading someone will work, and if we don't like a thing that someone says, or if they talk shit or stop smiling, that they deserve
that's
to
a
lose their job
shitty
over it.
gendered comment, right? That stop smiling, because that gets to you should smile.
I don't know
more.
that's. I mean, I can see that, but I'm thinking of it more as almost like a service industry.
Oh, okay.
You're like
he literally did reference the restaurant.
His dad's restaurant.
But also that makes me think this guy's like 14. It's like my dad has a restaurant and we control Guild Wars.
Let's settle down.
I do think that Arena, obviously we can't speak to the whole reason she was fired, but if this was the whole reason she was fired, totally disagree.
That seems like an overreaction for sure.
Yeah.
If this was the only thing that they were weighing, I think it's an overreaction. Totally. I think that she could have responded more politically sensitively, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think she probably wouldn't have gotten in trouble if she didn't bring gender into it, because gender wasn't brought up until she brought it up.
It wasn't said specifically, and there's reading through the guy's responses, and I've been reading up a fair bit on like various people's responses and analyses and breakdowns. And there was one that did change my output a lot because I was very much like looking at it as like he said nothing about gender. Every developer has to deal with armchair developers on the internet. That is an unfortunate reality, but everyone does. Fans have thoughts. Fans feel very, like they have a sense of
an agency.
Yeah, and ownership isn't the right word, but they feel like they've got a stake in characters or in games because they put so much of their life into it, and it means something to them, and therefore they have thoughts on how it should be handled and so on. That's that happens everywhere, and to some degree, it's a good thing because it's what keeps it's what means a community is strong. People are engaged. People are emotionally feel like they've got a stake in it, and they want to see where it goes and how everything happens, and that's important for a community. That said, looking at some of the responses from the YouTuber Droyer, I don't know if these are gendered. Like I said, I've only got my own experience, and I can't weigh it against having a male experience because I have never had one, so I don't know if it would have been similar. There are a lot of very dismissive things in his comments, very sort of passive aggressive, very acknowledgement of your thing, however, and nevertheless is, and sort of dismissing a lot of things she has to say, and that's where I don't know.
And that's the problem, is that like, yes, you could say that he's being dismissive and he's trying to tell you how to do your job 100%. But like, unless you have a really good case for why you think this is being based upon gender, like
it's an assumed thing.
Right, and it's right. Like, you shouldn't. I don't feel like it's like a fair thing to say like you hate me because of the gender I am, and that's the only reason you're acting this way.
So I actually found a response from Mike O'Brien, the president of ArenaNet.
Great.
That he responded to Polygon in an article where he said, "Concerns have been publicly raised that she was responding to harassment. It's not my place to tell employees when they should or shouldn't feel harassed. In this case, however, our employees could have chosen not to engage. They could have brought the issue to the company, whereby we would have done everything we could have to protect them. We won't tolerate harassment. When an employee feels harassed, we want them to bring the issue to us so that we can protect the employee, deal with the issue, and use it to speak to the larger issue of harassment. Whatever Jessica and Peter felt internally about the situation, this was objectively a customer engaging us respectfully and professionally, presenting a suggestion from our game. Any response from our company needed to be respectful and professional. A perceived slight doesn't give us a license to attack. The tweets were made on July 4th when the studio was closed for the holiday. We were aware of them that day and decided we'd need to take action in the morning. The fact that the community's anger was escalating on July 5th made it look like our action was in response to the community's anger. That wasn't the case. We took action as soon as we practically could."
I mean, and that I don't agree with like firing over responding, even if it was like an inflammatory response.
So from their perspective, it's not. This was one of our employees being rude to a customer.
Yeah,
like that's those are their words, not mine.
And I think that's a little crazy.
Also, this is why people are so guarded in public, and people people want to learn more people want to hear more from devs and learn more about game making in the process. This is why people are guarded, and they don't say more because they don't want to invite situations like this where things just escalate and go nuclear within a few hours.
Right, or even not even necessarily invite, but they don't want to risk.
Right. Absolutely.
If they actually respond to someone, they could lose their jobs.
Right.
Granted, most people probably wouldn't respond with the level of exasperation, but. I don't read her initial response as being mad so much as like, come on.
Yeah.
Which is, I feel like that's a less extreme reaction than like, how dare you?
I'm not saying it couldn't have been handled differently because it definitely could have.
Yeah, but it also, reading mood on internet can be difficult.
Yes.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, so overall, kind of a crazy thing that the Guild Wars 2 community has been going through.
I can't wait to play it. Check it out. It sounds awesome with good people.
Very curious to see where it goes from here.
Yeah, what happens?
I am worried on behalf of a lot of developers that they will be that they will think they need to shut down their social media,
That's- yeah,
stop responding
exactly.
to people because this is what they can look forward
Right.
to. You get like that one dude on Reddit who's like, "Don't talk shit, don't stop smiling, or else." And they'll just be
Oh,
like, "You know what?
God.
I'm gonna go away from where you are, and just not. I'm
I
not,
think
not
that is
gonna be
always
there."
the best reaction to not engage. I think that's
It's-
always the
Right,
best.
Yeah,
but
but
then,
they're-
but then, Brian, you're not being communicative. You're
Right.
not being transparent. You're not, you're not having this close
I
relationship
know.
with your community.
Yeah.
And that's the balance that everyone loses balance sometimes.
We can go drink beers at RTX.
The thing I practice is I type out a tweet.
We should do another happy hour.
Absolutely.
Do
That was-
another no
that was
happy
a
hour.
fucking-
yeah.
That's great
That was a
fun.
blast.
Yeah, let's do that again.
I loved it.
The thing I practice is I type out a tweet response and I go delete. But
Yeah.
typing it out is like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
great. Like, I'm telling you, ha ha ha, delete. Great, we're done, bye.
Oh wait, that was sin. Shit.
Yeah, I just, I don't use social media as much anymore.
I don't either.
But that's mostly just because I don't know. I don't feel. It's
also healthier not to.
I don't feel like like what I'm eating or
Yeah.
anything is like that terribly interesting to anyone. So I don't talk about it a lot. But
What are you eating?
what am I eating?
Yeah, what do you got?
Coffee.
Oh, that's kind of boring.
Yeah. Well, you had.
Let's step it
Says
up.
the dude with the Soylent in
That's
the.
my breakfast. Talk to me on a Saturday morning. I get my Saturday morning kolaches. Woo, they're good.
Dude, kolaches are
They're
delicious.
so fucking
Yeah,
good.
they are.
Yeah, see, there's a lot of things we can talk about without making people angry. Do you think kolaches are an anger-free zone?
Well, they contain sausages.
So I guess not. Okay, well, here we go. But overall, I feel like this was such a weird situation in that it escalated so far for everyone involved over what initially was like a relatively innocuous
Yeah, considering the original
Conversation.
Yeah, conversation.
and not innocuous. It's like, you're right. She was maybe a little bit shorter than she could have been. We all are.
Yeah.
And I don't think the YouTuber, the streamer is entirely innocent of this. I feel like he did a great job of
Pretending to be.
pretending
yeah,
to
whoa.
Well, listen.
be. But I think that everyone involved could have handled things better.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm sure there are things that we're not taking into full consideration either.
Sure, yeah.
There are all kinds of elements that we're not even seeing. We see, we see some of the tweets, we see some of the responses, and typically what we see is probably the most inflammatory stuff.
Yeah.
Like the stuff that got pushed to the surface because it was more extreme, and then as a result,
Absolutely.
The measured stuff gets lost.
Yeah. I think bottom line is that I agree even with some of the stuff she said, just maybe not how she said it, and I don't agree that she should have been fired.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it just shows like how dangerous it is to like try to just be yourself online.
Yes. Yeah.
Scary.
Yep.
It's scary.
Yeah. So that's that whole thing. And I think that about does it for this episode of Glitch Please. Really curious to know, what you guys think of the whole situation, and if there are different elements that we're not seeing. I'd love to learn more about it and try and get a wider picture, because it's just such a complex issue. It's hard to boil down to this is the right thing, this is the wrong thing, and that's the only thing. But it's such an interesting situation to see, and it's something that really could happen to any developer or anyone really with an online profile at any time.
Yeah.
And so
We all get told how to do our jobs.
Oh,
Yeah.
constantly.
so if you have like any additional information or like things that happened that we didn't talk about here, absolutely please leave them in the comments. We do read them and want to learn as much as we can about the situation. But overall, fun episode of Glitch Please. Lots of talking. Looking forward to Octopath. Super excited about that.
Can't wait. Can't wait.
That's our next week game, right? We're
I'm
talking
gonna be
about that?
sick.
Yeah, we'll talk
I'm gonna
about
be
that
sick
next week
tomorrow.
for sure. No. If you are a Rooster Teeth First member, we will have more discussion exclusively on the Rooster Teeth website. If you are not a Rooster Teeth First member, there is a 7-day free trial, so you can get access to all the first exclusive content, like our post-show New Game Plus, as well as we've got a bunch of different series. We've got like Day 5, which is an amazing series. All of our animated shows are come first to first. In fact, pretty much every content except Newsreads has a first exclusive window, so you get access to everything sooner, which is awesome. So if you want to try that out, just do that at roosterteeth.com. And hopefully we will see you on New Game Plus. If you are a Rooster Teeth First member, we'll see you over there.